All right, let's talk about optimizing images. So in this images folder, look at the size of this file, banner.png. It's 916 kilobytes. It's almost 1 megabyte. That's a really large image to serve on our internet. So far, we have only added a single image, but what if we add multiple images? All these images together are going to make our web page really heavy. So if the user is on a slow connection, they're going to have a really bad experience. So let's talk about a few strategies for optimizing this image. First, I'm going to open this with Photoshop. Okay, now let's look at the dimensions of this image. So on the top, we go to image and then image size. Look at the width of this image. It's over 1500 pixels. Take a note of this number somewhere. Now, back to our design mockup. On desktop, this image is taking up half of the width of the hero component. And we know that our hero component and other components are constrained by a container that is 1140 pixels wide. So let's pull up our calculator and do a simple calculation. If the width of the page is 1140 pixels and the image takes up only half of that, on desktop, our image is not going to stretch beyond 570 pixels. Okay. Now, what about mobile? On mobile, this image is going to stretch and take up the entire width of the page. But we know that the resolution of mobile devices is under 500 pixels. So in reality, this image is never going to be wider than 570 pixels. So back to our image, let's pull up the image size dialog box one more time. So essentially, we are serving a 1500 pixel wide image just to have it resized by the browser to 500 pixels wide. With this, all these extra bytes that have to be transmitted over the network will be wasted. And also, the browser has to take care of the resizing operation, which is something we don't want browsers to do, because the browser has to load a large image just to cut it by a third. In an ideal world, the image we serve should be exactly the same size it should be displayed. But we don't live in an ideal world, so this is almost impossible because there are so many screens with varying sizes, so it's impossible to serve an image that would cater for all these screens. So what can we do here? Well, assuming that our image is not going to be wider than 570 pixels, we can serve the image in this size, and if there are any small variations, we let the browser take care of resizing the image. Resizing from 570 pixels to, let's say, 500 pixels is not a big deal. It's something we can live with. Now, there is one more thing we need to take into account here before we resize the image, and that is the pixel density of the screen. We talked about this in the second part of this series. So modern screens have higher pixel densities like 1.5, 2, 3, and so on. Apple called these screens Retina displays. So to make our image look really sharp on these modern screens, we have to provide 2x or 3x versions of this image. So if our base size is 570 pixels, the 2x version is going to be 1140 pixels. What about the 3x version? Well, 570 times 3. That is 1700 pixels. Now, our original image is only 1500 pixels wide, so enlarging it doesn't really make sense because Photoshop has to use some math to build new pixels. These pixels were not in the original design. So we're only going to support 1x and 2x screens. So first, I'm going to resize this to 1140 and then save it as a new file. So here in the images folder, I'm going to create a new folder called resized. Now we're going to call this file banner at 2x because that's the 2x version. And then in this dialog box, we're going to select smallest file size. Good. So we're done with the 2x version. Now let's resize this one more time. We're going to set the width to 570 and then save the file as banner.png. Okay, good. Now we have two new PNG files. The 1x version is only 248 kilobytes, so that's a great saving from 900 kilobytes. Now for Retina displays, we're going to serve the 2x version, which is 700 kilobytes. So we still have some saving, that's about 200 kilobytes. But we're not done yet. We can make these images smaller by using a modern format like WebP. We talked about this in the second part of the series. So head over to cloudconvert.com. On this image, we're going to select our new PNG files. Good. Now, from this drop-down box, we're going to select WebP. Okay. Let's go ahead and do the conversion. All right, the conversion is done. So here's the 2x version in WebP. Let's download this. And we also have the regular version or the 1x version. Let's download this as well. Good. All right, here's the end result. For the 1x version, the PNG file is 248 kilobytes, but the WebP file is only 40 kilobytes. That's a huge saving. Now look at the 2x version. The PNG is just over 700 kilobytes, but the WebP version is just over 100 kilobytes. Any of these files served on our internet is far better than 900 kilobytes, the original image. So we're going to add these files to our project. Back to VS Code, let's select all these files and drop them onto the images folder. Then we're going to replace the original banner.png. Let's go with that. Good. Now, let's pull up index.html. So this is where we're using the hero image. We need to make a small change here. We have to wrap this image inside a picture element. So let's pull up the command palette and wrap this with the picture element. Good. Now, a picture can have multiple sources. So here's the first source. We're going to set the type to image/webp and source set to two sources, the 1x version and the 2x version in WebP. So images/banner.webp for 1x displays and images/banner@2x.webp for 2x displays. Good. So that was the first source. Now let's duplicate this element and change the type to PNG. And of course, we should change the file extension as well. So I've selected this WebP. Now I'm going to press Command and D on Mac, or you can press Control and D on Windows to enable multi-cursor editing. So we're going to change both these extensions to PNG. Good. So we have two sources. We should always have an image element. Otherwise, the image is not shown. This is where we apply classes or set the alt attribute. Okay. Now let's see what we get. So back to the browser, let's pull up Chrome DevTools, go to the network tab, and then refresh the page. So look, on my machine, I'm getting this file, banner@2x.webp, because Chrome supports the WebP format. In fact, most of the browsers out there do support the WebP format. Now, because I'm on a Mac, I have a Retina display, so I'm getting the 2x version, which is only 100 kilobytes. So originally we had a 900 kilobyte image, but now we are serving a 100 kilobyte image. Now let me show you something really cool. Let's open this page in Firefox and pull up Firefox DevTools. So on the top, we go to Tools, Web Developer, Toggle Tools. Now look at the shortcut. On Mac, it's Alt, Command, and I. This is the same shortcut we have in Chrome, okay? So here's Firefox DevTools. Now if we click on this icon, we can go to the responsive mode. Now on this page, we can select various devices like iPad, iPhone, and so on. Chrome has this as well, but let me show you something really cool. Over here, we have a drop-down list to select device pixel ratio. So we can see 1x, 2x, and 3x versions. Now, to see things more clearly, I'm going to zoom in by pressing Command and plus. If you're on Windows, you probably have to press Control and plus. So let's zoom in. So here's the 1x version. Now look at this image. Do you see that the edges are a little bit blurry? Because we are serving the 1x version. Now let's see the difference if we serve the 2x version of this image. So 2x. Now look, the edges are really sharp. So the whole point of serving 2x or 3x images is to make our images look sharp on Retina displays. So we're done with the implementation of the hero component. Now it's time to store this template as a separate file in the components folder. So whether we build really small components like buttons and links, or larger, more complex components like a hero component, we're going to store their template inside the components folder. Later, when we want to build the home page, all we have to do is to combine these components into a single page, as simple as that. So let's grab this entire section. Then in the components folder, we're going to add a new file called hero.html, paste it here, and we're done.